Primary 6 Listening Comprehension Practice. Listening Comprehension Practice for Primary 6. Instructions to teachers. Before you begin this practice listening exercise, please check that the volume of the speaker is audible to all your students. Adjust the volume of the speaker to ensure that all your students are comfortable with the level of volume.
Instructions to students. In this practice listening exercise, you'll hear 7 passages in total. You will hear each passage twice. In the question paper, you'll see the questions and 3 options for each question. Only one of the 3 options is the correct or the best answer. Choose the option which you think is the correct or best answer, then put a tick in the box next to the option you have chosen as your answer. You will now hear 15 seconds of music before the exercise begins.
Listen to passage 1, then answer questions 1 and 2.
Hello, Raju. I started an interesting hobby recently.
Hello, Rashida. Your new hobby must be reading, or watching movies, or writing stories.
I do all of those, but not as hobbies. I am baking cakes during my free time on weekends.
Oh, I'm more interested in eating cakes than baking cakes. Do you know what my current hobby is?
To eat cakes, you have to bake them first, don't you? All right. Collecting coins, that was your hobby. Once, it was mine too. What is it now for you?
No more collecting. I've started writing poems, and I find it very interesting. I love to use words and phrases creatively.
Yes, I find it amazing when someone can write lines that rhyme. I could never do it, although I had considered taking that up as a hobby.
Just the other day, I sat sipping a hot cup of tea. In the end, what remained in the cup was a dead bee. How's that? I wrote it last night.
Interesting. Are you thinking of taking up something else as well?
I'm interested in basketball, or I might take up badminton. Not sure yet.
I was thinking of some indoor games. I want to learn how to play chess.
Chess was my hobby last year, but I've lost interest in it now.
Could you teach me how to play chess?
Sure, let's get going, or else we'll be late for class.
Yes, let's go.
Question 1. Which one of the following Rashida did not consider as a hobby? Question 2. Which of these shows a hobby that Raju might take up?
Listen to passage 2, then answer questions 3 and 4. I went with my parents to shop for a present for my brother who had won the Best Speaker Award at an international speech competition. First, we went to a bookstore known as Bookworm Shop in Moonwalk Mall to look for a good book. We browsed the bookshelves there but found nothing we thought would be a good present for my brother. Then we went to another mall nearby, the Shoppers Mall, and entered the shop known as the World of Books. We saw a book titled Speaker's Handbook that my father and I thought would be a good gift, but my mother was not for it. So we abandoned the idea of buying it. As we were hungry, we drove to the Sunrise Mall about 5 kilometers away to set up food court to have our meals. After our hunger was taken care of, we took a slow walk when we came across a quaint little bookshop. It looked too small for a bookshop, and the shape of the space inside looked odd. Only second-hand books were sold there. Aptly, the shop was named Second Chance. We came across many old and some rare books. My mother picked up an old, dusty book with pages intact, but had turned yellow. A cover of the book said it is a handwritten manuscript of a famous English author, Charles Dickens. He was my brother's favorite author. The cost, $150. My parents thought it would be a perfect present for my brother. I came across 2 books I had wanted to read, and I was thrilled. The title of one was Moon Visit, and the other was Moon Folk Tales. I asked my father to buy the 2 books, and he did, on condition that I would share them with my brother. I agreed, and the books were in my hands. The outing turned out to be an enjoyable one for me.
Question 3. Which was the second mall the writer visited during the outing? Question 4. Which picture shows the book that the writer's mother thought was not a good gift? Listen to passage 3, then answer questions 5 and 6. One evening, a family of 5, the parents and 3 children, went for an outing. They took a taxi to the botanical gardens. At the entrance, they saw a big building which was the Herbal Museum. They went in and saw herbs from different countries such as India, China, and Indonesia. The children learned that some common plants they see in their neighborhood can be used as medicine, and this surprised them. After an hour in the museum, they walked along the museum path to the herbal garden to see more herbs. There, a man looked after the herbal garden, gave them some information about the plants he grows in the garden. After about half an hour, they walked along herbal path and went into the botanic theatre where they watched a documentary on forest conservation. It was an informative, hour-long film. After the film, the children felt hungry, and so their parents took them to the canteen. They walked along the botanic path and turned into the pond path to reach the canteen. After a delicious lunch, they went to the pond nearby and spent about 45 minutes enjoying the natural scenery there. From the bridge across the pond, they saw 2 black swans and 2 white swans swimming gracefully in the clear blue water of the pond. Next to the pond was the grand bandstand, where performances are usually staged. That day, no performance was scheduled, so they looked around the bandstand for about 15 minutes and made their way to the path that will lead them directly to the exit gate. The children were glad to have visited the botanical gardens.
Question 5. Referring to the map above, which was the first path the family took after their arrival? Question 6. In the map above, which path did the family take that will directly lead them out of the botanical gardens?
Listen to passage 4 and answer the questions 7 and 8. Good morning, Miss Santha and classmates. I'm going to read to you a very interesting story. The rivers of the world were unhappy. The rivers flow through mountains, hills, and valleys very happily and freely. Then finally, they have to merge with the sea. That was the reason for their unhappiness. But the rivers knew that they have to keep flowing and could not stop themselves from flowing into the seas. It is wrong that we have to flow into the seas. It is also very unfair that our clean and sweet water gets mixed with the dreadful tasting salty water of the sea, complained the upset rivers. The sea was annoyed to hear the rivers complaining. Go and be on your own if you think you can survive all by yourself. You don't have to merge anymore. You can be happy with your clean and sweet water all you want, said the sea, feeling a little irritated. Even if the rivers could flow away from the sea, they would never survive without merging with the sea. Rivers that did not merge with the sea would soon dry up and disappear. Only by flowing into the sea can rivers live. Soon, the rivers realized this, stopped complaining, and continued to flow into the sea.
Question 7. Which one of the following is not a reason for the unhappiness of the rivers? Question 8. The rivers stopped complaining when? Listen to passage 5. Then answer questions 9, 10, 11, and 12. Good evening, listeners. We have with us an expert on English language. Good evening, Professor Chandran. We are glad to have you with us today.
Thank you for inviting me to your program, Miss Lina.
Professor, how is English in Singapore today?
Good, I should say. English is widely used in our country for communications. English is the first language in our schools. Unlike in the 1970s and earlier, more people speak English in their homes. Although English is our first language in school, most students are not native speakers of the language, and so they have to learn English more conscientiously.
Are Singaporeans speaking good English, Professor?
By and large, I would say yes. Many of us speak well, from professionals to common people. There are also many others not very well versed in English.
Many of us Singaporeans tend to speak in Singlish. Is Singlish bad English?
Not really. It is an informal language. We use an informal language for casual communication. This gives people an identity that is unique. For example, I was traveling in Switzerland once. I came across two Chinese ladies talking and overheard one of them saying, "Hey, let's go makan." I knew they are likely to be Singaporeans. So I asked them if they were from Singapore, and they said, "Yes," very excitedly. So Singlish identifies us as Singaporeans wherever we are in the world.
That's a very interesting anecdote, Professor. So speaking Singlish is fine.
Yes, we must know when to use Singlish and when to use standard English. We will not use Singlish during an English oral examination or when writing an essay for schoolwork. Teachers must teach their students the difference between Singlish and standard English and when to use which.
Well, I used to be an English teacher, and I think that's a very good advice for Singapore teachers. With that, we will end this program. Thank you very much, Professor Chandran, for an interesting discussion on English in Singapore.
Thank you.
Question 9. Who is Miss Lina? Question 10. Based on what the professor said, we can tell that English is... Question 11. Which statement, according to what we have heard, is correct? Question 12. English teachers in Singapore should...
Listen to passage 6. Then answer the questions 13, 14, 15, and 16. Good morning, Miss Tan. I will now read out the composition I wrote. I wanted to write this essay without making any changes, but then I had to revise it a couple of times. The title of my composition is An Unexpected Visitor. Here it is. I woke up one Sunday morning to the sound of a bird chirping loudly. The window curtain was drawn fully to keep the bright morning sunlight out. The chirping of the bird was incessant, so I got up slowly and peeped slightly through a gap in the curtain. Amazingly, I saw a bird with green and yellow feathers sitting on the outside ledge of my window. I have only seen miners, sparrows, pigeons, and crows in my neighborhood, but never a parrot, not until now. The bird was colorful and beautiful. My thought was to catch it and keep it as a pet. I pulled the curtain slowly. The window was open. As soon as the curtain was pulled away with enough space, the bird flew into my room. I expected the bird to be frightened and fly away, but it surprised me. It flew right onto my bed. I thought it might peck at me with its beak, and so I was a little scared. I tried to shoo it away towards the window so that it could fly out of the room. But the visitor would not budge. While in the room, it did not chirp, but it turned about its head as though it was curious about my room. As I stood at a distance trying to get it to the window, it suddenly hopped onto one of my pillows. I was worried that it might soil my pillow. Luckily, it did not. After about 5 minutes or so, my unexpected visitor suddenly flew around the room and went straight out of the window, much to my relief.
Question 13. Which of the following is true based on what you have heard? Question 14. As soon as the writer woke up on a Sunday morning, he... Question 15. Which of the following did not happen when the visitor was in the room? Question 16. In the end, how did the writer feel? Listen to passage 7. Then answer questions 17, 18, 19, and 20. Once, there were two mice who were good friends, a city mouse and a village mouse. One day, the city mouse invited the village mouse to his city. In the city, the village mouse was amazed to see the house his friend lived in. It was much bigger than the hut he lived in. Once in the house, the village mouse was surprised to see so much food on the dining table. Fruits, cakes, curry puffs, varieties of bread, and much more. The city mouse asked his friend to eat whatever he wanted. Then they both started eating. The village mouse went for a piece of chocolate cake while the city mouse took a curry puff. Before they could eat it, a voice was heard. It was a cat meowing. The city mouse said, "Quick, let's run and hide below the cupboard over there. If not, we will be caught and be eaten by the cat." Both dashed to the cupboard and got under it before the cat could see them. The cat went away after a while. Both the mice came out. The terrified village mouse followed his city friend to the dining table, where the city mouse started eating as if nothing had happened. He asked his friend to continue eating, saying, "Do not be afraid. It is all part of the city life." The village mouse started eating, but was afraid the cat might appear again. Then a boy came there with a dog. The village mouse was horrified to see an animal bigger than the cat. Without waiting, it ran to the cupboard with his city friend right behind him. Once hidden from the boy and his dog, the village mouse asked, "Who are these?" The city mouse answered, "He is Kim, the son of the master of this house, and the dog is his pet. You were quick to run. You are learning pretty fast." Once the boy and the dog were gone, both the mice came out. The trembling village mouse said, "Friend, thank you for the city food. I want no part of city life. I'm leaving this city right away. There are just too many dangers here." With those words, he left immediately for his village. On getting out of the city, he felt very relieved that he was safe and sound.
Question 17. The village mouse went to the city because he... Question 18. What did the village mouse choose to eat? Question 19. On seeing the boy with his pet, the city mouse... Question 20. The village mouse left the city immediately because to him, leaving